What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from Imperium Racing here, and welcome to another video. Today we will be going over what tools you need to start in the automotive field or to start working on cars or trucks. I've been wanting to do for a while. If you've seen any of our recent videos, I did do a two-part video touring all my tools when I still had them at home, which was probably 20% stuff I just had in my garage tool-wise, not necessarily related to cars or anything like that. That video might also be overwhelming if you don't already work in the field or don't know what you're looking at there. So, long story short, I've been wanting to do a video like this for people trying to get into the field for a while now, and recently I've seen people request it on other places and on my videos, so we're finally getting to it. I spent some time putting together a list of what I think a tech will need starting in the automotive field. I've been very specific on this list in terms of price point, what you need to spend money on, what you definitely don't need to spend money on, or what you can get by with entry level or cheaper brands, and what you should really invest in. So to put this video together, I did come up with a list sitting on my extra B series over here. I will put this list up on my website in case you want to actually print it out and check the stuff off as you buy it, or if you want a physical tangible copy, because us people that work on cars like to have things in our hands and see them and touch them. So if you do want this list, I'm not going to show it in the video at all, but I will tag a link to my website where you can go print it out if you want. It's just kind of a rough little list I put together so that I could keep the video organized and stay on topic. And again, this is going to end up being a 15, 20, 30-minute video. Are you going to remember everything? Probably not. So I'll have this list so that you can check it out afterwards and print it out if you want, and kind of go down it and use it as your list to get started. So these are the tools I will be going over in the video here. Everything from electric guns to sockets to wrenches to pliers, flashlight, ratchets, pry bars, hammers, drills, everything I think you'll need to get started. Something I do want to point out at the beginning here is there are many different opinions on the internet in the automotive field on what you need, what you should buy. Take everything with a grain of salt. Some people are diehard Snap-on fans. Some people are diehard Harbor Freight fans. Some people are cheap as fuck. Some people are in the middle. And some people love to spend a lot of money on their tools. $100,000 on a Snap-on box full of Snap-on tools. It's happened. I'm somewhere in the middle. I like to have things that are reliable and nice and aren't going to break on me. And I feel like at this point in my career, I've kind of figured out what brands will do that for me. And again, once I get to each tool, I'm going to tell you if you need to buy an expensive one, or if you can get away with a Harbor Freight one, or if you need to buy one from a tool truck that's actually going to show up when you need to warranty it, stuff like that. So we're going to get into detail here, but without further ado, let's get started on the list. I have 23 things on this list that I think you should really get to start out, and about 12 more that I think if you can afford it, go ahead. Otherwise, just get started, get your feet wet. And a big disclaimer on this, the automotive field is getting harder. Pay has gone up a little bit, but still not really where it needs to be for most people. So it is a little bit of a rough field. And I see fairly often a couple of full toolboxes on Facebook Marketplace full of tools, people selling it because they got out of the field or something. So that is a big reason. Don't go buy a Snap-on toolbox when you start. Don't freaking do it. But again, we'll go over all those details. Just the main thing is don't invest a whole bunch of money in it if you haven't even set foot in a shop or are less than 6 months into employment, because you might change careers. You never know. It's happening more often than it used to in this field. So take that with a grain of salt. So the number one most important tool I don't have on my list, but I'll add it before I put it on the website, is a pocket screwdriver. The good thing is you shouldn't have to pay for this. If you ever buy a pocket screwdriver, there might be something wrong with you. This is the most important and most used tool probably by an automotive technician. The good news is you'll get them from all kinds of people. This is from BG. You buy something on Snap-on Truck, they'll give you one. Mack Truck will give you one. Most of the tool guys will give you one. You'll get one of those once you start working somewhere. Very helpful. Got to keep it in the pocket. Second item, I don't actually have it at home here, but an air check is a pretty much required item. You're going to use it all the time. You should be checking tire pressure on every car you work on. So a good air check is important. I would recommend a medium level brand to nice brand. I wouldn't really recommend Harbor Freight, although I don't have a lot of personal experience with their air checks. Maybe they're okay. I personally have a Mack digital one, which is slightly expensive, but I will say in about 8 years, it has never given me a single problem. One important detail to add with the air checks is if you get a digital one, find out what batteries it takes, buy extra batteries. There's nothing more annoying than trying to get work done during the day and your air check dies. Obviously everyone has one, it's easy to borrow, but most of us like to have our own stuff, do our own thing, and keep going like that. So I recommend digital air check. Depending on what vehicles you work on, you might need a different tip to get into wheels, dualies. Maybe see what kind of shop you're going to work in first, and then get the best digital air gauge you can afford. Number 3, what I'm going to go with is a flashlight here. I'm trying to go most used / most important tools to least important. A lot of people have the Streamlight Stinger. Mine is orange because I love orange. I would recommend not buying this flashlight. Almost everybody in the shop has one. It's about $200, I think, with the charger and extra battery. I might be wrong on that. It might be $160, it might be $260. It's expensive. It's the main point here. I really don't think you need this. I'm going to show you what I use every day. As you can see, it's on my car I was working on yesterday. This is also made by Streamlight. They make fantastic flashlights. If you didn't know, there's a very similar Stinger flashlight that a lot of police departments use. They are obviously all black. You can find used ones online all the time, but most police departments do use Streamlights, so they are really good flashlights. This thing is bright as hell. My favorite thing to do with this flashlight is actually bring it camping, and then at nighttime just see how far it goes, because it's ridiculous. But on a day-to-day basis, I really recommend you get the little Streamlight MicroStream. A couple reasons I recommend this. It's still rechargeable. It's a micro USB, which is a very common cable to have. It's rechargeable, so you never have to replace the batteries. And it fits in your shirt pocket with that little clip when you're working. Another thing some people don't know is this clip also will slide onto the bill of a hat. That's why it's open on this end, so you can't actually put it on a hat bill if you're wearing a hat and use it like that. Also, under panels, under cars, you can slide it in onto pieces of metal, pieces of plastic, and it will actually hold there pretty well. Only downside to this is the battery might not last you all day. It probably will, but the big flashlight honestly dies pretty quick too. It just comes with 2 batteries. My ideal thing is I have 2 of these, and I keep one in my pocket and use it, and I charge the other one. Once one starts to get dim, not even dead, once it starts to get dim, I swap them out. Put this one on the charger, grab the other one. And what I like about that is I always have a charged flashlight, and it's in my pocket, because all the time you're walking through the shop, you're walking to the other shop, you're out and about, you're not in your stall, and someone says, hey, can you look at this? Hey, what do you think? Hey, can you help me get this off? And you need a flashlight, right? This may be my most used tool, second to a pocket screwdriver, or they might be tied. And they're both in my pocket all the time, easy access. Maybe you're holding something with one hand, you gotta get a flashlight out real quick. Okay, cool, that's where it is. Go back in with the other hand. So this thing's super useful. And another thing I love about it is the price point. This sucker is like $30 on Amazon. You can buy it on the tool truck, but it's like $40. I recommend going on Amazon. Get 2 if you want. I bring this camping. I keep it in my car when I'm not at work. It's a fantastic flashlight. Keep it on my bedside table. I got my wife one for her bedside table in case the power goes out or whatever, which it did recently, and her flashlight was charged. But yeah, I freaking love this flashlight. They're super affordable. I had a black one that took about 5 years to die, and for a $30 flashlight, I'd say that's pretty acceptable. And so now I have 2 more. So again, you can get the big one if you want, but it's really expensive and it's really not that worth it. And that'll help keep your budget low as well, especially if you're getting started. And guess what? If you decide you don't like the field, it's just a tiny flashlight you can keep in your car or keep next to your bed. All right, 2 more things I don't have here, but I'll throw a picture up on the screen, is a tire tread gauge and a brake pad gauge. You really need those to start out. Once you kind of get going, you'll most likely just start eyeballing those 2 measurements. But again, it's 2 things you need to be checking on every car you work on to cover your ass and for the customer's safety and for satisfaction of an inspection. 2 things I would recommend getting: get the cheapest ones you can, because that is not a tool you need to spend money on. You're going to use it for a month or a couple months, and then you're going to get used to eyeballing stuff. Still hold on to them, because sometimes for warranty purposes, you have to take a picture with a tread depth gauge and a tire, stuff like that. Yes, dealerships do warranty tires sometimes, so get those gauges cheap as you can. Okay, sorry this video is taking so long, but we're finally getting into some of the fun stuff, which is going to be ratchets and sockets. Let's start with ratchets. I love gear wrench. Can you get snap-on ratchets? Yeah, if you want. Can you get Mac ratchets? Yeah, sure, if you want. Can you get Harbor Freight? Yeah, get whatever you want. I have some Harbor Freight ratchets, but my ultimate favorite is gear wrench. They're reliable, they're well built, and they're at a good price point. The only reason I had to replace this 1/4-inch ratchet in this set is because I welded it on accident. This is the 120 tooth flex head ratchet set, and I highly recommend it. Comes with a big 1/2 inch, a skinny long 1/4 inch, and a stubby 3/8 and a regular length 3/8. These 4 ratchets have gotten me through working on cars for almost a decade. I highly recommend this set. There's only been a few times where I'm like, oh man, I wish I had a crazy short 1/4 inch or a medium length or a really long length 3/8. Super rare. These have gotten me through almost everything. Pretty soon what I'm going to do is probably buy a larger set of gear wrench, take them to work, and then put these at home, because there's nothing wrong with them, but I'm getting a little greedy and wanting to buy tools again, so I think I'm going to get a few more. But back to the main point, this set of 4 ratchets will get you through everything. The other thing that's awesome is it's super inexpensive. This was about $120 when I bought it, long time ago. They might be a little bit more money now. Tool trucks have them, Amazon has them. Again, I think 120 tooth is their highest tooth count. And trust me, it's worth it. Those little tight spaces, it's very worth it. And again, the flex head on these is great. I like it because it is flexible, but it's got just enough resistance that you're not really going to be tightening something and have it flex on you. Great set. It also comes in this sweet foam that makes organizing your toolbox beauty. Moving on to sockets. Another place where I love gear wrench. So let's go over a couple things here as far as brand and what kind of quality you need. You might see these Harbor Freight sockets peeking out back here and you're thinking, Zach, come on, brother. Well, I just bought these today because they're a few dollars. And the reason I bought them is because I lost all 3 of my 1/4 inch 10mm sockets. You might be thinking, what, bruh? Yes. So my other 2 socket trays are in here. That tray I don't use really because it's mostly standard stuff. This tray and this tray I use a lot. This 10mm 1/4 inch short socket is missing. This 10mm socket was missing earlier. I could not find it. I found it right when I moved all my tools for this video. And then even my backup set, just the cheap Craftsman set that comes in like that big plastic case, even that 10 was missing. That's my backup, dude. That was all 3 of them. So anyways, I bought a short and a long 1/4 inch set just so I could steal the 10s from it. Because you got to have your 10s. And I was trying to work on my Honda yesterday, and 80% of the bolts on this car are 10mm, so I was very frustrated not being able to find any of my 310s. Enough rambling about my life. You want to know, Zach, what kind of socket should I buy? So, again, Gear Wrench comes in clutch with a beautiful set that is inexpensive, high quality, impact sockets, but they're not super thick, even though they're impact, and they also have a good size range. Something that's really important when you're buying sockets or wrenches is what is the size range. What I mean by that is these rows are both 3/8. We got short and long. The short goes from 8mm to 19. That's pretty good. The long goes from 8 to 21. Has one more socket. This set covers freaking everything. Unless you're working on big diesel trucks or semis or something, maybe then you'll have to buy an additional set. But the 8 to 19, 8 to 21 covers everything. I've really never had an issue with anything else on the car. So these are my 3/8 gear wrench. This was a single set I bought. It also came with a wobble and some extensions. And this is my 1/4" gear wrench set. You can see all on that second row there. It goes from 4 to 15 with the 4.5. And also 4 to 15 with the 4.5. Another thing I really like about the gear wrench sockets is when you buy a set like this or a set like this, they come in a hard plastic case, which means if you want to bring your tools home or to your buddy's house to work on something or to a track day, they come in a case. You can put them in the case and bring them anywhere. Or if you have a lot of sockets, you get a tray like I do. The other cool thing about cases that they come in is when I first started at the dealer, I just took all the lids off my cases and had my tools sitting in there, just sitting in the cases. Keeps them really organized, which is great. So the gear wrench, these 1/4" ones are also impact. Most sockets you see that are black in color are gonna be impact sockets. Same goes for extensions. So what I really like is the gear wrench makes these impact sockets, and they're really, really thin. So that's a 9mm. That's a 9mm chrome Craftsman. Is it a little bit thicker? Yes. Is it still going to fit on pretty much any bolt in the car? Also yes. So it's pretty cool, especially because at the professional level, you're using a lot of electric tools to do everything. So even for the 1/4", it's nice peace of mind to have impact sockets. And I will say, in again about 8 years of use, I've never had a gear wrench socket break on me. Not the 1/4", not the 3/8. None of them have broken, cracked, anything. I've just lost them. But that's a 10, so you know how that goes. So those are great. For your 3/8 and your 1/4", I highly recommend gear wrench. For your 1/2" sockets, you might want to go a little more expensive. I personally got the Mac 1/2" sockets for a couple reasons. Anything using a 1/2" socket on, you're going to be freaking railing on that thing with a big impact gun or a big breaker bar. So I wanted really good sockets. The other reason is Mac has this technology in there, if you see those couple lines, that really helps with not stripping screws. They have it on their wrenches as well. I know it doesn't look like much, but trust me, it does a lot. And that technology helps with not stripping fasteners, which is really important when you're trying to get work done quickly and accurately, and a strip fastener will ruin your day and your paycheck. So I went really expensive on my 1/2" impact. This 1/2" set, excluding this socket, this set was like $350. I gotta say, it was very much worth it. Now, if you're just starting out, first time going into a shop, just get the Harbor Freight. Just get the Harbor Freight set. This 22 I use quite a bit. I don't really use it on an impact gun though, and I've never had a problem. So if you're just starting out, go with the Harbor Freight 1/2" impacts, and then upgrade them over time when you can, and then go with some gear wrench 3/8 and 1/4". Highly recommend those. I did some digging on Amazon, looked at some other similar price point impact sockets, and then looked at the reviews, and they were horrible. People talking about them breaking or getting used refurbished sockets that were beat up in their new case. So don't mess with it. Save yourself some time. Go gear wrench. If you can afford it, you know, get Snap-on or Mac for everything, but that's a lot of goddamn money for no reason. So gear wrench is great. And then I got my Craftsman in here, just has some 12-point stuff for 1/2" for when you randomly need it. This is also old Craftsman, again, in case I temporarily lose a 1/4" or something. Back here, wheel sockets. This is something that's really important. If you'll notice, these are black impact sockets with a protective sheath on there. That protective sheath is so you don't scratch wheels when you're taking lug bolts or lug nuts on and off. Some of them are starting to break. What I would recommend here is figuring out what brand you're going to work on. If you're going to a dealer, which means, you know, you're only working on Fords, or you're only working on Chevys, or you're only working on BMW, figure out what size their lug bolt is and get whatever socket you need. Like, okay, I only need a 17 to work on Benz, and occasionally this, so I'm just going to buy a 17. Then you're good. That's all you need. But If you're going to an independent or a AAA or something where you're working on all kinds of cars, then you probably want to get a full set like I did. This is a max set, so it included everything except for this white one, and then I replaced this because I lost the socket. But it was 17, 19, 21, and then all of these standard sizes. It's a great set. Highly recommend it. When I did have a Mac guy coming around, I warranted the 17 once or twice because they do crack. They're a little thin-walled to have the protective on there, so they do crack if you use it a lot. But again, warranty, no questions asked. Got a new one. So this tool set kind of depends on where you're going, what you're working on, and what kind of tool guy you have. If the Cornwell guy is the only dude that comes around to your shop, then buy this wheel lug nut, lug bolt socket set off of him, because you'll probably crack one and you'll probably have to get it replaced at some point. Buy it where you got a warranty. Once you get deeper into the field, you can start getting cool stuff like stubby sockets and whatever. Another option other than gear wrenches, I've heard good thing about Capri. I bought this stubby set, but I haven't used it a ton, so I can't vouch for them yet, but I have heard good things. I will 1,000,000% vouch for gear wrench. I'll vouch for Mac. I'll vouch for Snap-on. Those are all great, but yeah, try that if you want. Don't blame it on me. Moving on to one of my favorite tools. These are wobble extensions that lock, which means if I put a socket on here, socket can wobble and move around and it won't come off. This is really nice when you're going down and somewhere and you don't want your socket to fall off. You just pull to release it. But what I really love these for, and why I would recommend you buy them, is for doing spark plugs, because spark plugs love to fall out, and you're always going down with spark plugs, and especially when you're threading spark plug back in and you go to pull it off, a lot of times that little rubber seal in your spark plug socket will want to stay on the plug. Well, with this, you can still pull it off. This Snap-on set was only like $90 for all three of these, and you know, Snap-on has a good warranty, obviously, so I do recommend this set. I've never had any issues with these three in, again, like 8 years, so I do recommend it. There are other brands that make the same thing. Gear Wrench makes these, you know, Mac, everybody does, so get whatever brand you want on these, but super important, great for doing spark plugs, and great for a handful of other things, and their wobbles. So highly recommend the locking wobble extensions. And you really only need them in 3/8, so I don't have any other drive for those. Moving on, let's get into wrenches real quick. This won't take long. So I love the Mac wrenches for a few reasons. As I pointed out earlier, they have their stuff that makes them not strip. Snap-on has the same thing. They call it flank drive. I don't remember what Mac calls it. All the brands probably have something similar with different names. And it doesn't look like much, but I have tested this on rounded fasteners that other people could not get off, and trust me, it freaking works. The other thing I love about the Mac wrenches is they come in this nice displayed case that's easy to read. So when these go back in my toolbox at work, they sit like this. You pull them out, you use them, and then you put them back. And they're fantastic. The big ones have a similar thing. I just took this one out. And as you can see, the Snap-on, these are just the basic ass wrenches on the edge. Nothing fancy about that. But the reason I got the Snap-on set, I got it on discount, is because it ratchets. So I love this set for the ratcheting, and then this set for everything else. And the only other thing I really need it is eventually I would like to get a stubby flex head ratcheting set, but that's not something you use all the time. Regular wrenches you will use a lot. 12-point box end is great with the open end on the other side. That's really what you need to start. Once you get a little further in, you can get some ratcheting ones if you want. These are really nice when you got a bolt that you cannot fit a socket and ratchet in there, because you know, even with the stubby, you need, you know, an inch of room, more than an inch of room to get this tool in there. Whereas, obviously, let's use this one since it's a similar size. You know, you got way more room to get in here sometimes. So ratcheting wrenches are nice if you can afford them. If not, just wait till you get down the line a little further. Otherwise, these wrenches are good. If you go in with some Craftsman wrenches, probably work for a little bit, but you're gonna round some fasteners. I would bet money on that. So get some nice wrenches when you can. Moving on to pliers. I recommend finding a big set if you can. Quality-wise on these, maybe get something with a warranty like Snap-on or Mac, but honestly, just find a set that is affordable that you can get all of these in, because to be honest, I've never had an issue with any of these. I've never broken any of them. To be honest, you're not doing anything with any of these tools that puts a lot of stress on the tool. Maybe some people are doing some crazy stuff with these, but you really shouldn't be if you have the right sockets and tools and everything. So yeah, maybe just get whatever you can afford, but try and find a big set like this. So what I did is I waited till Mac had a deal. I got all these pliers plus these hose clamp pliers and the small ones, plus a whole set of vice grips for like $200 or $300. It was really cheap. So the small needle nose you'll use, the small long needle nose you'll use, the small dikes, the big dikes you'll use. What people call these channel locks you use, the adjustables. These ones I'll use to put hoses on and off sometimes. The longer needle nose. You're going to use all of them. The only thing I bought separately was these plastic 90-degree angle clamps. So these are for going in and, clamping coolant hose or power steering hose or something while you're repairing the system, so you don't lose all your fluid. These are the exact same thing, just a little different design. These hold a little stronger and they are straight, whereas this is obviously 90 degrees from where you can fit the tool. So these are great for getting in different places. They come in different sizes. But again, just find a set where you get the small ones, you get the big ones, you get pliers, you get dikes, you get hose clamps. Try and find a set with all that, and you should be good. I've never had a problem with any of these, but they don't get a whole lot of stress on them. Pry bars. Pry bars are awesome. There is a price difference due to quality. So I have a Harbor Freight set and I have a Mac Tools set. Let me tell you pros and cons of both. The Mac set has a hammer end on it, which is pretty freaking cool. That is a metal cap directly attached to the shank, so you can freaking sledge on the end of that. How often do you need to sledge on the end of one of these? Not very often. So it's nice, but don't really use it that often. If you're getting into something where you're using a pry bar this big, I have two longer than this. I have a really, really long one. If you're prying something that big, you probably want a quality pry bar, because as you can see, the shank is significantly thicker than the Harbor Freight one. It's about twice as thick. So it's definitely stronger. Now, I first started out with the Harbor Freight set. Once I got into the shop, I waited for a deal on the Mac set and I bought it. And to be completely honest with you, I really like having both sets because they're different lengths. So let's line all these tips up here. So you can see this one and this one, that's about a 6-inch difference. Sometimes that's all you need to get in somewhere. And then even these small ones, you see the metal is longer on the Pittsburgh one, and the handle's also smaller, so this fits in more places. And sometimes you need 2 small pry bars to get something done. So to be honest, I love having both sets. If you're starting out, get the freaking Harbor Freight set. You'll be fine. If you're doing something where you need a giant pry bar, you can borrow that from somebody, and you're going to probably need a second set of hands anyways. So you'd be like, hey, can you grab your big pry bar and help me out real quick? Start with the Harbor Freight set, wait for a deal on a good set, and go from there. Let's move on to picks and panel poppers I have on the list. So this is a panel popper. This is a panel popper. This is sold on tool trucks that do not make it because a lot of people love this tool. It's really, really thin. Those little plastic tabs are on the back of door panels and stuff like that. Or there's a lot of them on intake tubes and engine covers and stuff nowadays on newer cars. This is great for those. This is also great. It's a little bit of a different angle. I think I bought this set from either Amazon or AutoZone, really cheap. There's like 3 different sizes of this version. I bought this off the tool truck for like 20 bucks. Those are very worth it. I would recommend getting those when you start. A pick set you will need. I would recommend going really cheap on these because you should be fine. And if you break a pick, you're probably doing something you shouldn't be. So the reason you need pick set is they're really good for getting old seals off of things, loosening up hoses. If you have a rubber hose, take the clamp off, you can kind of get this in there and go around the edge and loosen up the hose. Kind of like if you were taking this hose off, you kind of go like that, get in there. I know there's still a clamp on this, so I'm just showing. You get in there, and then once you're all the way under, you kind of go all the way around. It's a great way to loosen the hose without damaging the hose, whereas other methods can damage it. So picks are useful for a million different things. They're great. Highly recommend it. I got this set of long ones from AutoZone for like 14 bucks once. Love it. This is obviously a Harbor Freight set that came with 4 or 5 picks in the small and 4 or 5 picks in the big for, you know, 5 bucks or 8 bucks or something. So go cheap on these. Don't need to spend a lot of money, but they are super useful when you need them. This is a Mercedes specific tool and was expensive. This is made for drum brakes, but the thing I love using this for is pulling coil packs out. You go under there and you kind of hook on the little rubber or plastic tab and pull them out. So that's a useful tool you can get eventually. Kind of like a pick. If you have a good pick, you could use it for the same thing. But the pick set, go cheap. Panel poppers, go cheap. Just get them. Those would be very much worth it. Another tool you can go really cheap on is mirrors. Probably just one small mirror will be helpful. Sometimes you need it to check brake pads or look at something behind a dash or under an engine that is hard to see. I will put a link to the Amazon mirror set that I bought that I love. It's like a medical mirror set, and it came with a whole bunch of different sizes. This one's from the Mack truck. I probably paid too much money for it, but I keep it at home now, and I have my newer set from Amazon in my box at work. Very useful when you need it. All right, a few more important items on my list here that I don't currently have on me. They're still at work is 15, 16, 17, 18. I didn't bring any of those home, but I can throw some pictures on the screen here. Starting with 15, spark plug socket set. So this is really important because, again, a lot of what you do working on cars is maintenance. Spark plugs is a normal maintenance item. And you want to have a really good set for this because dealing with anything related to broken spark plugs or broken spark plug sockets is going to be a world of headache you don't want to deal with. And again, as I stated earlier with the wobble extensions, spark plugs falling out while you're trying to put them in or take them out is just a nightmare. So what I can say from my personal experience is I bought a really nice large set of every size, spark plug socket, and it is from Mack. And then I have my snap-on locking wobble extensions, and I've had 0 issues, in 8 years. And they're great. So the spark plug socket set is something I do recommend getting a good name brand for and spending some money on. If you're working on an OEM and they really only have 1 or 2 spark plug sizes, maybe you just get those sockets, or maybe you get the whole set because you want to work on your own cars too, or you work at an independent, something like that. The Mack set is great. Oil filter tools is another generic thing that you're gonna need, especially starting out, because starting out you're gonna be doing oil changes, tires, maintenance items, software updates, stuff like that. So it depends on what you're working on. Again, a generic pliers for screw-on metal filters are great. It's also good for some OEMs like Honda or Hyundai use those. If you work on European cars like I do, then you will need specific sockets for those cars. I'll put up the set that I have here. You can also kind of buy them as you need them. I have this full set, but I really only use 2 of them for Mercedes, and then technically I use 3 of them. And then the other thing I use is just the pliers on my personal vehicles and stuff like that. You can go kind of cheap on these because it's not something that you really put a lot of torque into. For the pliers, though, I would get decent ones. but I don't think Mac makes their own. I think a lot of them are made by the same company anyways, so get some that look like the Mac ones because they grip really freaking well. Don't get any of those adjustable spinny ones, those freaking suck. A hammer set, if you can get a dead blow hammer, a mallet, and a sledge, that's really all you need. There are some cheap hammer sets out there. Hammers are not something you need to spend a lot of money on. I bought like a $90 snap-on dead blow hammer, and that was so stupid. I did not need to do that. Get a freaking Harbor Freight hammer set, and you'll be fine. It's not something you use a lot, but sometimes you need a sledge to knock bolts out, knock bolts loose, knock rotors loose if they're rusty. And then a dead blow and a mallet. Sometimes to tap things into place, or tap off an oil pan to reseal, or knock off a wheel that won't come off. So buy a cheap hammer set, try and get a dead blow, a mallet, and a sledge. And if you buy a set that also has a nail pulling hammer and some regular hammers, you just take those home. That's what I do. I bought a hammer set. I have like 3 of them at home, like 3 of them at work, plus my mallet and my dead blow. And the last thing I did not bring from this portion of the list is panel popping tools. Another thing you can go super cheap on, buy them from Harbor Freight. The only thing you need to watch out for is most of them are different colors, and some of them can leave a colored smudge mark on a car. If you're working on newer cars, expensive cars, you don't want to leave any marks. So test your tools out first, maybe rub them on a piece of plastic somewhere in a car that can't be seen to see if they rub off at all. I will say, in my personal experience, I've owned 2 sets of the blue Harbor Freight ones. I only bought a second set because I lost one piece and broke another piece, but I still got like 5 years out of like a $6 set. And the blue ones from Harbor Freight do not rub off on plastic. I've never had any marks left, which is freaking awesome. So I only have 3 things left on my kind of like essential list that I think you should have. And one of them is a magnetic tray. Here's one. You can get different size ones. Totally get these cheap as well. Harbor Freight, something like that. But you can get small ones, big ones, square ones. Those are super nice to have. Another thing is a pocket magnet. Now, these are super useful because they're extendable and it fits in your shirt pocket. So I keep this magnet, flashlight, and pocket screwdriver on me at all times, and trust me, this is super worth it. You're working, you're trying to be efficient, you're trying to get shit done, and you drop your socket, you drop your bolt. Go right in there and get it. Even if you drop something under the car, this is nice because it's easy to reach. So highly recommend that. I also highly recommend you don't pay for this. Pretty much every tool truck will have these, and if you buy something, be like, hey, I'll buy this wrench set if you throw in that pocket magnet. And I bet you money they'll be like, sure. Or they'll just give you one if they're cool. I'll find that later. But that, my friends, is a very essential tool. Sweet when you need it. So, digital voltmeter. I have one here. You could get a cheap one to start out with. When you're really starting out, you're not going to be doing that much. Maybe checking battery voltage to see if an alternator is working. You're not going to be doing that much crazy shit. And if you do get into a shop where they have you doing crazy shit, you're probably going to have someone helping you, or a foreman or somebody that's going to help you and let you borrow a tool set, or maybe your shop will have an electronics testing set with a meter and leads and back probes and all that stuff. So don't go expensive on that right away. Get in there, see if you're going to stay in the field, see if you like doing electronics. Some guys never work on electronics because they're not good at it, especially a lot of older dudes. So if you end up being the freaking transmission guy in your shop and you're cool with that, then don't buy an expensive test probe kit, So, but you do want just a regular meter so you can test some stuff, check out some stuff real quick. When parts brings you a battery, you can throw a meter on it to make sure it's new. Because sometimes they look new, but they grab an old one and give it to you, and you put it in the car, and it doesn't start, and then you're like, hey, it's my first week back at the dealer. I just remembered I have to check all my parts when I get them. Anyways, it's not like that happened to me or anything, but yeah, basic voltmeter when you start, cool. $30, $40, $50, Amazon, AutoZone, get a cheap one. And last thing that I remembered to add to my kind of mandatory list I think you really need when you're starting out is a brake pad tool. So this little guy will spread brake pads, turn it, and the reason for this is once you take pads out of a caliper, the piston has pushed out from pad wear, and you have to push the piston back in to put your new pads in, right? So this is a great tool. This works on all Mercedes, and I've used it on most of my personal cars as well, Toyota, Honda, Acura, Subaru, and it's been great. But some cars with certain parking brake setups, you need a more specific tool than this. And yes, that actually did start to bend. I was doing sketchy stuff with it that was not brake pad related, so ignore that. It's fine for brake pads. This is a larger set that you will need for certain vehicles that have parking brakes that are a design where they have to be twisted in. They cannot be straight pressed like this tool does. They actually have to be rotated in. And this set I got off Amazon. It's actually a great set. Wasn't that expensive. But you don't need this unless you're going to be working on the cars that have these. I believe I've used this on a Volkswagen. But again, this is specific. If you're going to be working on the cars that have this type of parking brake setup on the rear caliper, then you need this set. It's not super expensive. Otherwise, just get a regular pad spreader. These are 20 bucks or 30 bucks or something. And again, when you first start out, you're going to be doing service work, brake pads, tire changes. So this is essential. Alrighty, thank you for staying with me this long. This video is longer than I expected it to be. This tends to happen when I talk about tools, so I apologize, but hopefully this information is useful. So at this point in the video, I've covered everything that will get you started as a mechanic. If you purchase everything that I've gone over so far, you will start off and be able to do a huge amount of jobs, as well as work on mostly anything on your own car. And you can get through everything I've showed so far without spending too much money, which is great. At this point, I'm going to transition to the next page on my list, which is things that if you can afford them and you think you're going to stay in this industry for a long time, or you have that student discount on Snap-on and you want to use it, buy this. And then the last thing to touch on would be dealer provided tools. A lot of shops are moving to providing tools for new guys coming in, making them hourly, and then if you work for 2 years or whatever, you get to keep your tools. 2 years might seem like a long time, but man, that's worth it. If you get a couple grand in tools, you're going to add a few of your own things here and there, and then in 2 years, if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else and take your tools, or you'll probably like it there if you stay that long, and now your tools are yours. They have to pay you flat rate, and if you're in California, and you have a whole tool set from them, plus the stuff you've added, and you're ready to go. So it seems like a bad thing. It definitely is a way for the dealers to pay techs less money when they come in starting, but it kind of makes sense for them to do that. And the first year or two is going to be mostly simple stuff to get in a rhythm and learn anyways, and learn about the brand you're working on. So it may suck a little bit, but just take every opportunity you can. Even if it's boring or it's repetitive. If it's repetitive, then try and get fast and efficient at it. But keep it accurate. Don't f it up. Fast and efficient. And then if it's new stuff, learn. Try and find some people you can shadow, older guys, shop foremen, team leaders. If it's old dudes, take everything with a grain of salt, but they still have a lot of knowledge though. If you're starting out, try and get most of the tools on this first sheet of my list here. Don't spend a whole bunch of money if you're starting out. Don't see my list and go buy Snap-on everything. If you need a box, Harbor Freight is awesome. I have this Harbor Freight box. I've had it for about 3 years now, and it's fantastic. If you have to buy a box, if you go to a dealer, they might provide one. I have dealer provided boxes at our work because they want the shop to look uniform. So they're all the same. But again, don't spend a whole bunch of money at the beginning. If you're starting out and they provide you tools or they give you shit work, you just got to do it. That's kind of any trade starting out, right? So take it all with a grain of salt. Learn and absorb as much as you can, and don't spend too much money starting out. But hopefully this video helped. Hopefully this list helped you guys. If you got any questions, drop it below. If you have any suggestions, any tools I missed, or any really good deals on tools, drop it below and I'll pin the comment so people can find it. I already had some of that knowledge dropped on my other tool videos, so I'm going to try and put that in the description here and in the video. But again, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and if you're starting out, good luck. Peace.